Hey everyone, my name is Rooster, and welcome back to Mechabellum. In today's video, it is yet another match against Mathis Might. I don't know why, but we keep facing against one another on ladder, and the games are usually pretty varied and interesting to showcase, so here's another one. This time it is going to highlight an old strat that used to be very popular, Corner Factory, which we don't see that often anymore, but it still can be exceptionally powerful in the right scenario, as this game will show. Now, Mathis Might here is a supply specialist with Hound Sledge, and I am a speed specialist with Hound Steel Ball. I decided to go for double crawler on round 1, and I really wanted to play more mid-range. I have kind of highlighted this playstyle that was popularized by Cast, where you play a little bit further from the line. That way you create more distance between you and your opponent, and that means that deep flanks with sledgehammers and crawlers will end up pulling more of the enemy units towards the back of the map, often opening up this tower, allowing you to move in through this diagonal here. Especially with the mobile beacon, it can be quite annoying to defend. Crawlers behind the hounds, that way they split in a little bit better way, and often end up being more annoying to clear for the opponent. Mathis Might goes for a pretty similar setup. Hounds behind the towers, and already here on round 1, I felt like maybe I should be wary of a round 4 Titan showing up, because Math does run Incendiary Bomb, and Hounds behind the towers, especially if Incendiary Bomb gets clicked early, does tend to indicate War Factory lines more often than not. Not a great first round for me here, as Math does guess correctly where I will be. He has double Sledgehammer, places them vertically, that way they stall the steel balls for longer. And yeah, round 1 here, not gonna go my way. I do have 5,000 hit points to my name, now 4.6 after round 1. So, you know, not the end of the world, but will have to change up my comp quite a bit, because it's unlikely that my steel balls will manage to get a lot done in this specific scenario. Round 2, we have the call-in spells. We have Rhino Assault for Mathis Might in the back left. We have Wasp Swarm for me in the top left. Why did I decide to go for Wasp here? Because my opponent didn't have any anti-air just yet, but Rhino is also a perfectly fine pick. I think the main thing here is just that you probably do want to have the spell. I level up my tower, so it is going to be level 2 still. That will end up falling to the Rhino, and my Wasps probably will get a tower as well. The question is how much I will be able to get done on that right side. I do purchase a Wasp myself, again trying to punish the lack of anti-air. I would have 2 Wasp packs this round, which hopefully would be able to win, but with the Incendiary Hound picked up, and yeah, my tower also going down first. This doesn't look too good for me, and I will end up losing. My 5 Wasps that are still alive are not going to be able to do too much. Maybe a little bit of cleanup here, but that's about it. Just got to wait for the Fangs to move over, and that will be round 2 going in favor of Math as well. Now, my long-term game plan here is pretty much to first solidify my chaff clear, get to something like Range Hound, maybe intercept the missiles from the Hounds with the Mustang missile intercept, and then try and find some type of carry to kill whatever my opponent wants to do. If he decides to go for a War Factory, I would go Abyss, and otherwise I would probably just kind of see what the unit drops give me. On round number 3, we have a pretty impactful spell. Orbital Bombardment shows up. Efficient Giant Manufacturing is what Mathis Might goes for. That does open up a lot of lines for him. I don't think it's like particularly good on Titan lines, because you will end up buying less of them than if you were to buy Giants, but you know, it's not set in stone that he's going to be playing a War Factory here. He can very well play anything else. Hound on the line from him, I will go for Missile Intercept Hound, one on the left to try and kind of pressure the tower and also defend my own tower. Orbital Bombardment will land. My opponent did not shield or anything. It is quite expensive to do this early on, and against steel balls, you know, if you end up shielding and you lose your shield and you lose the round, it's not really worth it. So oftentimes you will see a lot of high-rated players just kind of tank the spell or trade it and pick it themselves and say, you know what, you can pick that and I will happily take the economy. That does work out for me quite nicely, as I managed to get a win here. And I stopped the bleeding. Mathis Might not the healthiest start, already down to 3.5. And again, this buys me time, right? Because I wasn't quite sure yet what I wanted to move into. A lot of my starter units are not going to be that useful. That's why I've started selling out of my steel balls, and I'll have to replace it with something more potent. Round number 4, I decided to go for the Stormcaller. I was expecting him to pick Vulcan, but not too happy about that showing up, considering he did take Efficient Giant Manufacturing, and suddenly there's 3 Vulcans with range on the board on round 4. against a board that is solely made up of small units and definitely nothing that can contest Vulcans. I mean, the Stormcaller I got is nice, but that's about, you know, the extent of things. I'm not too sure I'll be able to kill all of them here. If I can take 2 of them out, I'm pretty happy. I do go for range on Hound. Again, I feel like I need to do something. Hound isn't great into Vulcan. It will just lose in the long-range matchup. But again, right, I already have the deployments and I need to make some concessions. This is as good as it's going to get. If I can then grab something like a tank that can distract the Vulcans, I think I should be fine long term. And at least, you know, that problem is solved for the time being. My chaff clear is done with. Now I can start focusing on how am I going to tank the Vulcans and kill them. Hopefully, again, the Stormcaller will at least allow me to not take, you know, a gigantic amount of damage. But you can see the problem here. The Hounds don't have anything, you know, to stall for them. So they get locked onto pretty quickly. And it doesn't look like my Stormcaller is going to end up doing much of anything. All of the Vulcans still alive. So what was a pretty even matchup, you know, rounds 1 to 3, completely flipped on its head on round 4. And I take a million damage down to 2.3 as we just enter the mid game. Round number 5, Advanced Power System shows up. Incendiary Bomb shows up. Dominion Core, a little bit late. If it's round 3, it's worth considering sometimes for the additional resources, but here you don't really get the benefit, and if for some reason my Dominion Core would die, I would likely end up losing on the spot. The other card that's interesting here is Improved War Factory, and I end up picking that because it kind of fills the holes that my comp had. I need a really good DPS unit to get rid of all of these giants that popped up, and I also need a very good tank. And well, War Factory is exceptionally good at doing that. An Improved War Factory especially is insane with this corner strat. Now, this is a strategy that hasn't been popular lately. It doesn't show up very often anymore after the addition of Abyss, things like Ionized Raiden, but at one time it was the best strat and very, very hard to counter, where the idea is that you put a War Factory here in the corner. I've talked about this in my previous videos, but the idea behind that is it is kind of the safest spot whilst still being very much near the opponent. You can work together with the flanks, add crawlers, sledgehammers, even on multiple spots, and really, really try to stall as long as possible while this factory kind of moves into the diagonal. And yeah, it will crush basically anything. If you move it diagonally, oftentimes most of its guns will stay active. The thing about Factory is that even though it does have 4 guns, they do have a certain like range that they can see. They can't exactly like pivot 180 degrees. So if you move in a diagonal fashion, oftentimes that is like the way that you can at least enable 3 of its guns to be useful, sometimes even 4. Now, I lose my left side because I was really focused on the right. But as you can see, this unit is pretty strong, even on 10% hit points here. It is absolutely demolishing the right side, tanking all of those Vulcans during the debuff, getting to the tower, and saving me a very nice amount of hit points here. Now, I'm not quite sure if I'll manage to beat everything. There are a lot of crawlers in the way, but I'm happy at least that it took out 3 of the Vulcans in that instance. My beacon here is really bad, by the way. I'll try and explain kind of some mechanics that are useful for this strategy, but I completely botched the way that I moved in my factory, and so I will die, but... or at least I will lose the round, but I saved myself a good amount of hit points. My factory got a level, and now I can start getting some interesting techs on it. So the thing that's really good about Improved War Factory is that it gets 40% bonus HP, 15% bonus attack, 10 range, and it also, importantly, decreases the attack interval by 0.2, and this is for each of its guns, so it shoots a lot faster. And again, if you can enable most of them, that is a scary, scary prospect. So I decided to go for high explosive here because I felt like I needed to get through the sledgehammers a bit faster. And honestly, with the amount of bonus stats from the level 2 factory, the improved card, high explosive, reducing my attack by 40% is not going to make a difference. I should be able to easily take down the enemy Vulcans here, even with that reduced attack. And it'll just allow me to get closer to the tower, you know, that much quicker. And that's the whole point of this strat. Really just zerg your way in, kill whatever's in front of the tower, get the debuff, and then finish off your opponent, you know, during that timing that you have. Now, as for my mobile beacon here, I'm going to grab the War Factory and make sure that I dodge all of the enemy units. As long as this does not have any units inside of it, the factory will keep moving forward. And that's what I did wrong in my my previous beacon, as I ran straight into those hounds, so my War Factory stayed still. Now you can see there is nothing inside of the beacon, and so the factory will just keep on moving. As soon as it does hit something, like those fangs, it will stop. But that's a way that you can kind of try and forge a path that gets really close to the tower and then takes it down. Now, my anti-air wasn't great, and my opponent goes for Ionized Raiden here, making good use yet again of efficient giant manufacturing. And it is probably one of the better counters to something like a corner factory, because oftentimes you only have to deal with 1 or 2 factories. And, well, getting some good chunks on them will often be enough to take them down. Still, though, not that easy. And I managed to somehow get through. The factory survives, takes down the Vulcan. My Wasps are barely enough to take care of the air situation there. And now I have to make sure that I grab something to take down the Raidens more, well, efficiently and safely, perhaps. And we do get some options here on round 7 with the unit reinforcement. I wouldn't say that the previous unit reinforcement was good for me. I think there definitely the Vulcans were more favored for my opponent, but here at least I get the Farseers, which are very useful, and I'm happy to use those as my main counter to the Raidens. We're going to stack them on the right side. Again, the main point of this strat is really to focus on one side of the board first. Try and make sure that your factory is as well supported as possible before you really start to look at that other side of the field. I could try and push in here, but again, I need to make sure I can kill the Raidens, and once that is fixed, I'll be okay to try and look over there. Now, I add the Farseers. My opponent goes for more Raidens, ranges his Raidens. I think that he ended up selling unit reinforcement there for more cash. I decided to go for Shielded Wasps as, you know, a way to kind of stall the Raidens even more. And as you can see, it is doing a pretty good job here of preventing my factory from getting locked onto. It just goes in, takes down the level 3 tower. 5 seconds of debuff is still very nice, and it allows my Farseers to take down the Raidens. So things went from looking really bad after that first unit drop to now looking a lot better, I would say, and I would even argue that I am currently favored in the matchup. A nice unit drop, and the War Factory just seems to go in smooth like butter, especially with those Shielded Wasps. My opponent will likely try and find a response to that now. Could go Chain on the Raiden if he doesn't want to buy Mustangs, or try to go AA Wasp or something. Round number 8, another efficient giant manufacturing shows up. I'm not too interested in anything here. I can't put items on these units. I could have gone for laser sight, probably on a Farseer. Keeping them safe is kind of, you know, something that's mandatory. If they get sniped because they somehow end up next to the factory, as they are not range enhanced yet, that could be problematic. And yeah, but skipping here is fine as well, just to have more money available. And as I said, because the right side looked good, I am now pretty happy to try and push in on the left side of the field. I want to add a factory, a Wasp, and a Farseer as well, in case my opponent kind of preemptively puts a Raiden over there. My Orbital Bombardment is also back off cooldown, and yeah, we'll have to see what Mathis Might decides to do here. One idea could just be to shield the Fangs, maybe even, yeah, chain on the Raidens and buy a ton more. Raidens are not amazing into Wasp, but when they have range and chain, they can kind of do all right, especially when you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 Raidens triple teched on one side of the board. That probably will be able to get through my triple Wasps. I will likely be able to break that shield pretty quickly though, and well, even if I don't, this high explosive factory is not too bad at chaff clearing. Left side will just be able to get in. That Vulcan got evaporated pretty much. It does take a little while to get through all of the Fangs though, but finally I will be able to get that 7-second debuff. But here is what I was afraid of, right? A couple of my Farseers end up next to the factory, and because there's so many Raidens with the chain, they end up dying. And yeah, that was something I was a little bit worried about, and it kind of tells me what I need to do in the following turn, which is to range my Farseers. They need to stay behind the factory and my Wasps and everything else to be able to take down the Raidens. Because now my Farseer went down, I have no anti-air left, and even though I went for a good, you know, play on the left side, getting that debuff, I don't end up winning, and I find myself at 812 hit points. Here comes round number 9. Smoke Bomb shows up. Not much I can do about that. Laser sight, again, could be a consideration here on one of my Farseers. And opponent naturally goes for the smoke bomb. I decided to pick it up as well. I felt like, you know, maybe I can break the shields, or at least one of them, and still land the smoke. Maybe my opponent doesn't think I will pick it and, you know, doesn't buy the shield, because buying all of these giants is expensive, and buying shields as well is not that cheap, considering I will definitely end up breaking them. As for myself, I mean, I have to deal with Incendiary Bomb and Smoke. I don't run Sprinkler on my Hound, so there's not much I can do about that, except, you know, accept that this is something I will have to deal with. I could try and not use this War Factory, because I am expecting him to, you know, add more stuff on the left, and this is kind of a classic move on aggro where, yeah, you go for a big play on the left, your opponent is forced to do something about it, and then you sell out, use the resources to kind of double down on the right side of the field. That's exactly what we're doing here. I level my tower to level 3. I do keep the Farseer there. We range enhance our Farseers, and we buy a bunch more at level 2, making sure to upgrade our existing ones as well. And now we suddenly have 5 Farseers on the right side of the board, staring down at, again, you know, the 7 Raidens that are over there. Now you will see that I don't really do too much with the factory, because it got countered pretty early on, and honestly it's been doing very well just by itself with a single tech. That's kind of what makes this strat so powerful. Again, also because I have the improved War Factory card, but just one factory at level 2 can do a ton of work. If it's not instantly countered here, I would have likely tried to go for something like Launcher Overload and range, but here the Farseers seem to be the biggest asset to try and take down all of those Raidens, and they're not doing too poorly. My War Factory does end up dying on round 9, but I still have all of these Raidens left alive, and the crucial thing is that those are ionized Raidens. They don't deal much damage, especially to barriers, so my Farseers are relatively safe. Hopefully I'll be able to go over here before I get debuffed. Okay, I do take that down. That's very nice. Eventually, my opponent gets the tower, but 3 seconds of debuff, and, you know, his units are inside of the smoke, so I do quite well. Nice thing for me as well is that that smoke did land, and here we are in round number 10 with the 3rd rotation of unit reinforcements. Now here I wasn't necessarily looking for anything. I felt like my comp was basically done, and I just needed to invest more into the units I have. I did know that Sticky Oil Bomb was back off cooldown, and I thought to myself, maybe the only problem I could have against the Shielded Fangs is Chaff Clear. My opponent does go for the Sandworms, and that makes sense. Feels like the one thing that he might need is something to tank so that his Raidens stay safe and can attack for longer. Especially if my War Factory ends up dying, it won't be too easy for me to deal with 5 Sandworms, 3 of them at level 2. And so maybe that is something that I should think about. I decided to go for Photon Coating here to really try and up the tankiness. I went for the Fire Badgers with Scorching Charge to really try and, you know, amplify my chaff clearing ability. Is it gonna be enough? We could see there's a ton of other things I could do here. I could go back onto the left, although there is a smoke over there. And I could perhaps try and level up my factory and range it if I predict that this is going to happen. But if the factory stays alive, we could be okay. And of course, all of the worms here do start very far in the back. Crucial round, both of us low on hit points. This likely will decide, you know, who ends up winning. And let's see, does that Photon Coating do anything? The one problem with the Photon Coating is that it doesn't block the ionization tech, but it does just generally add to the tankiness of the unit against everything else. And of course, the Raiden still has some attack value, which will get blocked. Here come those worms. The main army has gone down, but can my Farseers find the target? Right now, all of them are locked onto the worms. My factory is trying to do whatever it can, but with 3 Raidens shooting at it, it is going to go down. Thankfully, the worms burrow for a little bit, which allows perhaps some of my Farseers to shoot back at the Raidens, but one of them stays alive, and a couple of Sandworms even here are going to manage to take down the remaining Farseers I still have. And with 812 hit points remaining, that is simply not going to be enough for me to close out the game. So I end up losing a pretty exciting one, especially to watch lots of back and forth between, you know, kind of the even early game into Efficient Giant manufacturing, double Efficient Giant with the Vulcans. I think the improved War Factory card is something that doesn't get picked up too often, but in these type of scenarios, if you're playing aggro, exceptionally powerful. I mean, you could see how much this was doing, right? I didn't invest a ton into it, but it is top on damage, and it has 570 units killed at the end. Sadly, we weren't quite able to convert, but I will say that this round wasn't my strongest. Of course, I have to kind of predict correctly that this is going to happen, but I don't think it is the hardest predict to make, because it's the only basically unit drop here that makes sense for my opponent to take, aside from, you know, selling. For myself, I don't think I should pick anything here. Sandworm does get countered by Ionized Raiden, so I should just take the money. And, well, I guess my one thing is just to try and keep this factory alive. So what I could do is do this, maybe beacon it slightly towards the middle. Probably do want to keep it inside of the barrier as long as possible, because the Ionized Raidens are not great at breaking those. And I could even try and attack here on the left side. Now, I do want a loan, of course. Temp range, temp speed, kind of important. I think I should put a barrier over this factory as well. And then I have a wasp swarm available that will spawn shielded wasps. Where do I want to use that? Could be somewhere over here, perhaps. Could be on the right as well. I think the right is probably safe enough, though. And that leaves me with a little bit of cash. Not quite sure what I want to do with that. I could sell a unit as well. Wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. It's kind of hard to say what I should do. I could grab another wasp as well. Probably just want to oil, though, now that I think about it. And perhaps try and layer it over here. I do know that Sticky Oil Bomb is available, and there's a high chance it gets used over here. If I can overlap it and make sure that it gets ignited, I can kill all the chaff very, very quickly, and then the factory level 3 with range should be able to just snipe all of the units, maybe even snipe the tower. Perhaps we should like move it up slightly. Let's see how it does. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I could sell that. I guess oh no, I already sold the Typhoon. Well, this is all that I can do. Let's see. I'm not too sure about this left side factory. I'm gonna try and have a second wave of wasps come in. But I kind of hope that the Raidens don't end up killing my factory before then. You have the chaff moving in from the looks of things, and I think the barrier is doing a good job here of tanking. I have no idea whether this factory is inside or outside of the shield. My guess would be inside, but it's looking a bit better. Oh, it is outside of the shield, actually. That is not amazing. The left side will fall, but is it gonna be enough? This is very tricky. I think if the factory was more inside of the shield here, we might be okay. I do take down the Raiden, though. And as I take down the Raiden, I think this factory may be able to do something. There are still quite a few worms left, though, and they are currently moving towards my tower as opposed to towards my factory. Perhaps the split is useful. I do take down one of the blue worms. Factory is at half health. I have some units to tank, but ooh, level 2 sandworms here. Not quite enough, and I think I will end up dying here. Actually, will I? 35... 735. I think I was at 800, so I would have survived, but I think this is winnable. I'm gonna try again, just because I think that with some minor adjustments here, I can get a different result. Main problem was that this guy over here went outside of the shield. That minor adjustment on my end did not really pan out. That is not the tech I want. Probably just want to add another wasp. I could add it on the right side too, to be honest. I think I do want to go for this debuff. Definitely want to range. Definitely want to go for the shield. Probably want to go for that oil again. I think that was pretty good. And then I guess we just level this. I am going to skip a deployment here. I'm going to put the wasp over here or over there. I'm not quite sure. I think the right side was doing fine. I just need to make sure that this factory doesn't kind of grief by moving outside of the barrier, because those are putting in a lot of work. Oil will land. Left side will eventually get a debuff, I believe. Now the factory does stay inside. It's going to be able to take down the Vulcans, which is nice. And my Farseers are going to be able to lock on to the Raidens, hopefully. As I stay inside of the barrier, I should be able to fight back, at least for a little bit longer. Did that go better or worse? My left side factory now somehow died. I don't know how that happened. Oh, this is such a... I'm just going to keep playing this. I'm pretty sure I can get a result here that's favorable for me. This is not winning, so I guess we can try this round again. Okay, another try. Again, we are going to sell here. And all I have to do is somehow make sure that we are gonna end up winning on... I mean, the left side factory, like, just died last time. That was not ideal. Let's keep on moving. I definitely do think that rage makes sense. I think that this barrier is useful as well. I think that, again, the oil is a good thing. And definitely want to loan. Definitely want to level that. And then I think the crucial thing is, where do I beacon this guy to? Do I beacon it at all? That's also a question, I guess. Because I could end up just moving my units sort of like this, try to really like get into that tower. That is a thing I could try and go for, but I don't really want this guy to move outside of the shield. Tough one, very tough one, but from the ways things are going, I feel like I can get a win there. Did this? Okay, that is definitely not the play. Yeah, okay, I need to make sure that this factory doesn't move. So, probably I do have to beacon the guy on the right. Well, let's see. I mean, this does stay inside of the shield this time. Actually, it manages to take down all of the Raidens. And that would be a victory. Okay, well, kind of a crazy one. But as I, you know, as I kind of felt like there is a way to win here. I did not play that perfectly. I don't even know really why this did so much better when this factory just basically committed suicide with that beacon. But yeah, maybe just no beacon use at all is the best. This way the factory stays on the right. It did stay inside of the shield. For some reason, sometimes sandworms do deal damage to shields and sometimes they don't. It kind of depends on like where or like what they're attacking and like how close or inside or outside the shield they are. It looked like here they just weren't dealing damage to the shield, so it stayed up for longer because the Raidens couldn't break it. And that was just enough time for the factory to kill all the worms. And once they kill all the worms, my Farseers easily beat the rest of the board. But yeah, comes down to some very small adjustments there. I don't think that what I did was perfect, but I also think that, you know, finding this play is quite hard. At least, you know, finding it and executing it correctly, because as you guys could see, sometimes you still end up losing. Anyway, a pretty entertaining game nonetheless. I do think that Corner Factory can be powerful in the right situations. Yeah, if you liked the video, please leave a thumbs up. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought about it. Is this a strat that you've seen before? Have you been playing it yourself? Let me know. If you want to stay up to date with my latest content, please consider subscribing. And if you want to see me play live, check me out on Twitch. With that being said, take care, guys, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.